Sometimes I wonder if things would have turned out differently if I had just said no that day. No to helping. No to giving. No to staying quiet. But back then, I still believed that if I gave enough, loved enough, and stayed patient, they'd see me. They'd choose me too. You're nothing but a parasite, Avery. Take care of yourself. Mom's words sliced through me like a surgical knife. My hands trembled as I gripped the kitchen counter. I'd been paying my own way since nursing school, sending them $2,000 every month for years, covering their mortgage, utilities, and more. I'd even been helping with their house payments when they couldn't make ends meet. Yet somehow, I was the parasite. That night, I packed my overnight bag and drove back to my apartment in deafening silence. No goodbye hugs. No leftovers packed in Tupperware. Just that vicious sentence reverberating in my mind, you're nothing but a parasite. I grew up in a modest white vinyl-sided ranch on Maple Lane. Nothing fancy, but it was home. Dad, a retired factory manager, used to fix everything himself, leaky faucets, broken fence posts, even the sagging porch step. Mom tended her garden of daisies and lavender between her shifts at the local supermarket, and my younger sister Madison was the princess of our household. Madison was 4 years younger, and from the beginning, it was painfully obvious she held a different position in our family hierarchy. When I aced a difficult biology exam, my parents nodded. When Madison scraped by with a C-, they threw a celebration dinner. She tries so hard, Mom would gush. You know how creative types struggle with academics. When Madison broke my science fair project the night before judging, it was an accident. When I cried about it, I was being dramatic. Still, I loved her. I loved all of them. When I turned 18 and earned a nursing scholarship to a college an hour away, I left quietly. I packed my well-worn bags, hugged my parents goodbye, and drove away from the house on Maple Lane, believing it would always remain our family's foundation. But the dynamics shifted immediately after I left. My parents never once offered to help with my rent, even when I was drowning in student debt and working night shifts to make ends meet. You're learning valuable life lessons, sweetie, Mom would say dismissively on the phone. Independence is good for you. Meanwhile, Madison flunked out of community college and moved back home without consequences. She's just finding herself, Dad explained when I called, frustrated. Not everyone discovers their path right away. Must be nice, I muttered, staring at the overdue rent notice taped to my refrigerator. By 32, I was working as an ER nurse, living in a small but tidy apartment 15 minutes from the hospital. Every month without fail, I transferred $2,000 to my parents, for their mortgage, repairs, medical bills, whatever they needed. It consumed nearly 35% of my income, but I never questioned it. Madison still lived at home. At 28, she hadn't held a steady job in years, working part-time at the same supermarket as Mom when she felt like it. Nobody mentioned this glaring fact, not at birthdays, not at Christmas, certainly not when I noticed wedding photos appearing all over their social media. Did Madison get married? I asked, trying to sound casual during my next visit. Dad chuckled. Just a small ceremony last month. We paid for everything, she and Tyler deserve a perfect day. They're living with you? I asked, noticing men's shoes by the door. There was a tense pause before Mom snapped, it's none of your business, Avery. We're family. We support each other. I bit my tongue. For years, I'd told myself to let it go. Family first. Be the bigger person. But something inside me shattered the day I arrived for Thanksgiving, Madison's first as a married woman, and noticed the for sale sign missing from the front yard. Did you take the house off the market? I asked, sipping coffee at the kitchen table while Madison showed off her honeymoon photos from Hawaii that I'd unknowingly helped finance. Oh sweetie, Mom said with a bright smile. We didn't tell you. We decided not to sell. We're giving the house to Madison and Tyler. They're starting their life together. It's time. I froze. Wait. Giving? As in signing over the deed? Of course, Dad confirmed proudly. It's the least we can do to help them get established. I sat there stunned, my mug trembling, coffee splashing onto my hands. You're giving her the house? I've been paying my own rent for nearly a decade while sending you $2,000 every month. You've always been the responsible one, Mom interrupted, as though it were the highest compliment. You don't need help. Madison does. She's done nothing, I snapped, my voice sharper than I'd ever allowed it to be in this house. I've worked double shifts in the ER while you've handed her everything on a silver platter. Mom's face transformed then, tight, defensive, cold. You're being incredibly ungrateful, Avery. You should be happy for your sister. Madison just got married. She needs this start in life. Honestly, sometimes I think you resent her just because she's loved. Loved? I repeated, the word like a physical blow. Yes, she snapped, eyes flashing. You're nothing but a parasite, Avery. Madison is starting her marriage. You take care of yourself. And so I did. I took care of myself, for real this time. But I also did something else. I canceled every single bill payment, over $1,500 worth each month. The morning after I stopped the transfers, I woke expecting guilt to crush me. I thought my apartment would feel hollow, like I'd severed something sacred. Instead, I felt weightless, breathing fully for the first time in years without that financial burden dragging behind me. That feeling didn't last long. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Mom. Her voice was artificially cheerful, tension lurking beneath each syllable. Hi, sweetie. Something must be wrong with the bank. The money didn't come through this month. Can you fix that? Hope the hospital isn't working you too hard. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over delete, before replaying it to confirm what I'd heard. No concern for me. Just a demand wrapped in fake sweetness. Next came Madison's text, where's our money? No greeting. No punctuation. Just pure entitlement. By week's end, I'd received 3 more messages from Mom, each progressively less sweet. The final one was razor sharp. Avery, you can't just cut us off. Madison and Tyler are counting on that money for their renovations, and I don't appreciate being punished for decisions made for our family's good. I didn't reply. For the first time ever, I chose silence. That Sunday, Aunt Carol called. She's Mom's older sister, a retired social worker who maintained healthy boundaries while never missing family gatherings. Caution filled her voice. Avery, your mother's been calling me constantly. She's furious. Because I stopped sending her money, I stated flatly. She paused. Yes, but she claims you're being selfish. Abandoning the family. I laughed bitterly. I've been the family for years, Carol. Who's paid their mortgage? Their utilities? Madison's honeymoon? They gave her my childhood home and called me a parasite. Carol sighed deeply. I know. I warned her this would happen, but she's always been blind where Madison's concerned. I just wanted to check on you. I'm fine, I said. Better, actually. And surprisingly, it was true. Despite the guilt bombardment from them, something felt empowering about cutting financial ties. I was finally living for myself. My peace was short-lived. Weeks later, I found an envelope under my door, no return address, just my name in Mom's handwriting. Inside was a hastily written letter. Avery, I can't believe how cruel you've become. You think we're just taking advantage? Madison is struggling. She's newly married. You've always had it easy, nursing scholarship, stable job, your own place. Not everyone's path is so simple. Madison needs the house. We need that money. If you can't support family in hard times, maybe you're not the daughter I thought you were. Mom. I sat on my kitchen floor, the letter dangling from my fingers. My stomach didn't clench like I expected, her words didn't hurt anymore. I realized then, Mom wasn't writing from love. She wrote from fear that her reliable ATM was finally done. That the daughter who always gave, always complied, had disappeared. She was right. I was done. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. Then my phone rang, Mrs. Patterson, our former neighbor. Honey, I hate meddling, she began, but I saw Madison in your parents' yard last night, screaming into her phone, throwing things. Something about mortgage payments and bills. I thanked her and hung up, torn between laughter and tears. Madison was finally facing reality, and it was consuming her. I knew what would follow, and I was right. A week later, Mom called. I didn't answer. Her voicemail wasn't sweet or angry, just desperate. Avery, please. Madison's not handling this well. Tyler's threatening to leave. They might have to sell the house. I don't know what to do. We need you. I stared at the screen, then with surprising calm, deleted the message. No call back. No explanation. Just silence. They gave away my childhood home. They gave away their daughter too. And strangely, that might have been their greatest gift to me. 2 months had passed since I stopped the payments. 2 months since drawing my boundary. I'd hoped they'd accept it. I should have known better. When guilt failed, manipulation followed. It began with a knock on my door during a rainy Thursday. Peering through the peephole, I saw Madison, designer handbag contradicting her soaked hoodie, that familiar entitled smile twisting my stomach. Open up, Av. We need to talk, she called, as if we were friends meeting for coffee. I remained silent. Avery. Come on, I know you're home. I said nothing. Eventually, she muttered something before stalking away, shoes splashing angrily. That should have ended it, but days later, I found her in my hospital's waiting room. Avery, she said, intercepting me as I finished my shift. Don't cause a scene. She looked worse, pale, makeup-free, fidgeting, like someone drowning in reality. I walked past without acknowledgement. Wait, she snapped, grabbing my arm. You're really doing this? Cutting us off like we don't exist? I pulled free and faced her. You've existed just fine on my $2,000 a month for years. You're so dramatic, she scoffed. Mom's devastated. You've ruined everything. No, Madison, I said quietly. She ruined things by choosing to spoil you instead of raising you. Now she expects me to fix her mess. She laughed bitterly. You think you're better than us. I worked for everything I have. You wouldn't understand. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Fine. You'll regret this. Family's all you have. But that was it, she wasn't family anymore. Not the kind meaning safety or love. Just shared DNA and disappointment. The following week, my nursing school friend Jenna called. Hey, she said cautiously. I saw your mom at church. She's spreading stories. What kind? She paused. That you abandoned them. That you're cold, ungrateful. That you're too focused on your nursing career to care about family. I sighed. Of course. She also claimed you threatened Madison. I froze. What? Said Madison visited you and you threatened to call security. That you're deliberately destroying the family. I laughed without humor. This was Mom's specialty, rewriting reality until she was the victim and I the villain. Never happened, I stated flatly. I figured, Jenna replied. Thought you should know what's circulating. What struck me wasn't Mom's distortion of truth but how easily she weaponized it. I'd been raised thinking family meant loyalty and love. For her, family meant control. Once she couldn't control me, I became her villain. The final blow came 3 days later. I'd just finished cleaning my apartment when my phone buzzed, an email from a realtor. Hi Avery, following up on your inquiry. I've attached the listing for the house on Maple Lane as discussed. Let me know if you'd like to schedule a viewing. I froze. I hadn't contacted any realtor or requested a viewing. Confused, I opened the attachment, and there it was, my childhood home, listed for sale. Photos of the living room where we once decorated Christmas trees, the kitchen where Mom baked her famous banana bread. Everything staged and pristine, without a single trace of our family's existence. I called Aunt Carol in panic. They're selling it. I asked after explaining. After giving it to Madison and Tyler. She sighed heavily. They're drowning in debt, Avery. Madison maxed out multiple credit cards. Tyler pawned your dad's tools, sold the lawn equipment. I guess the house was inevitable. My throat constricted, not because I wanted the property, I didn't, but because it was never about the physical house. It represented years of memories, sacrifice, believing home meant permanence. Now it was being flipped for cash like our history meant nothing. They gave it to her. She gutted it. And they expected me to rescue them. But I wouldn't. Not this time. They'd burned that bridge, and I wouldn't rebuild it. I didn't cry seeing the house listing. I expected to. I braced for it. But tears never came. Instead, I felt strangely empty, as if something inside had finally detached and drifted away. I studied the photos carefully. The walls were now trendy gray instead of warm beige. Mom's beloved daisy garden had been replaced with decorative stones. Dad's porch swing where he sipped Sunday coffee had vanished, substituted with a generic bench and decorative pillows. It looked like any other house. Someone browsing Zillow would never know what once existed there, what once mattered. The longer I looked, the more I realized the house was already gone, not just physically, but emotionally. It stopped being mine when my parents decided it was Madison's reward simply for existing. I closed the listing, exhaled slowly, and opened a new tab, my savings account. For months, I'd been quietly transferring the $2,000 I once sent them into a special fund. Initially, it was just symbolic protest, reclaiming a piece of myself. But now I knew its purpose. It was time to build something truly mine, not from guilt or obligation, but from self-love. I began browsing nearby neighborhoods. Modest homes, quiet streets. Nothing extravagant, just something stable I could fill with warmth on my terms. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next day, I created a home buying checklist, credit report, down payment, mortgage pre-approval. It felt both overwhelming and exhilarating. For once, my energy wasn't being drained by family drama. It was flowing into me. The biggest shift was finally choosing myself. Still, old habits lingered. Sunday morning, I caught myself reaching for my phone. I used to call Mom weekly to check in, to ensure she was okay, to ask about Madison despite dreading the answers. But now, what remained to say? She'd made her choice repeatedly, and it was never me. That afternoon, and Carol messaged, "Thought you should know your mother asked the church for financial help. Claimed her nurse daughter abandoned them. Said Madison and Tyler are struggling with no support." I stared at those words, bitterness rising in my throat. Even now, she played the victim. Abandoned. I was the one abandoned, emotionally, financially, completely. Yet her narrative erased everything. In her story, I was the cold, selfish daughter. Perhaps that hurt most, her rewriting history one whisper at a time. I replied to Carol, let her say what she wants. I'm done correcting the record. And I meant it. Let her construct her version. Let Madison wallow in delusion. Let them cling to their victim story. I was writing a new chapter, mine. That week, I toured a small 2-bedroom house near the hospital. It wasn't perfect, overgrown yard, outdated kitchen straight from 1992. But stepping inside, something resonated. It felt safe. I traced my fingers along the worn banister, envisioning weekend mornings with coffee and music, dinners with colleagues, a peaceful life built on self-respect rather than sacrifice. The realtor, Mrs. Ramirez, smiled warmly. It has good bones, she observed. So do I answered, surprising myself. That night, I submitted an offer. It was accepted next morning, and something within me shifted, not dramatically, but permanently. I was building something authentic that no one, not Mom, not Madison, not their manufactured crises, could touch. They could spin their tales. They could gossip and play victims. But I'd stepped out of their orbit, stopped begging for affection scraps, stopped proving my worth to people determined not to see it. I was done being the good daughter if that meant remaining invisible. This new life was mine. For the first time in years, that was enough. The house was mine. Deed signed, boxes unpacked, air scented with fresh coffee and lemon cleaner. Nothing fancy, but undeniably home, a place nobody gave me, nobody could take, and nobody would leverage against me. For the first time, I possessed something truly mine. I was still adjusting to the quiet. No passive-aggressive voicemails, no midnight texts from Madison begging for just a little help, no guilt-laden messages from Mom suggesting I owed them for my independence. Peace felt unfamiliar yet beautiful. Then one Sunday afternoon in early spring, someone knocked. Peering through the window, my heart sank. Madison. She stood there like a displaced memory, designer handbag contradicting her disheveled appearance, bloodshot eyes, fidgeting hands. Still carrying herself like the world owed her everything. Every instinct warned against opening the door. But some part of me needed to hear her purpose. "Hey," she mumbled, avoiding eye contact. I remained silent, leaning against the door frame. She shifted nervously. "Can I come in?" "No," I replied calmly. "Say what you came to say right here." She glanced around as if expecting rescue from her discomfort. "Mom's in trouble," she finally admitted. I waited, expressionless. "The house is being foreclosed. Dad can't make payments since you stopped helping. They might lose everything." There it was, the real agenda. "What about your husband?" I asked. "Tyler left. Said he didn't sign up for this financial mess. It's complicated." I crossed my arms. "And this concerns me how?" She blinked incredulously. "They need help, Avenue serious help. You're a nurse, you make good money. You've always been the responsible one." There it was again, the responsible one, their favorite justification for expecting me to solve everything. "You're their daughter," I said evenly. "You live with them. Why aren't you helping?" Her face hardened. "You think I haven't tried? I've been dealing with this nightmare for months while you're living your perfect life in your cute little house." Her words didn't trigger guilt as intended. They ignited anger. "Dealing with it?" I echoed. "Madison, they've supported you your entire life. Now when they genuinely need help, you come begging to me?" Her jaw tightened. "This isn't fair, Avery. There are parents." "No," I said firmly. "They were your parents. I was the ATM, the backup plan, the one who didn't need help so never received any." She looked stunned, as if hearing this truth spoken aloud confirmed what she'd always known. "Mom wants one last chance," she said softly. "To make amends. She talks about you constantly, says she regrets everything." "Did she send you?" I asked pointedly. She hesitated. "She doesn't know I'm here." I raised an eyebrow. "So you're manipulating me without her knowledge? Or she couldn't face me herself?" Madison remained silent. I sighed, stepping back slightly. "I hope they find a solution, Madison. Truly, but I'm not bankrolling anyone anymore." "But..." "No," I interrupted sharply. "They made their choice when they gave you my childhood home. I've made mine." She stared as if seeing a stranger. "You really don't care, do you?" The final card, equating financial support with love. "I do care," I said softly. "I cared for years until it nearly destroyed me. Caring doesn't mean continuing to let you drain me financially." She retreated a step. "You've changed." "Yes," I nodded. "I finally have." She lingered momentarily, then turned and descended the steps without another word. As I closed the door, I felt an odd mixture of sadness and liberation, sadness for the family I never truly had, liberation from pretending otherwise. I returned to my kitchen, poured fresh coffee, and sat in the warm sunlight streaming through my window. Madison was right. I had changed, and it was the healthiest decision I'd ever made. Spring arrived early that year. Cherry blossoms lined my street in delicate pinks and whites, as if nature was celebrating with me. A full year had passed since I stopped sending that monthly $2,000, since the house on Maple Lane was sold, since I'd heard my mother's voice. During that time, something within me transformed unexpectedly. The tight knot of anxiety no longer greeted me each morning, dreading the inevitable text or call demanding money. I stopped tensing when unknown numbers appeared on my phone. I smiled more genuinely, slept more soundly, discovered weekend hiking trails, and rediscovered my love for reading. I even created a small medicinal herb garden, nurturing plants that heal rather than relationships that harm. There wasn't one definitive moment when I recognized my healing. It happened gradually, like finally exhaling after years of holding my breath. The most significant shift came unexpectedly at the local market. I was comparing tea varieties when someone called my name. "Avery." I turned to see Mrs. Patterson, our former neighbor from Maple Lane. She used to bring homemade soup when Dad worked late shifts and always smelled of lavender and peppermint. "My goodness," she exclaimed, smiling warmly. "I hardly recognized you. You look peaceful." I smiled genuinely. "I am." She pressed a hand to her heart. "I'm so relieved, dear. I worried about you after everything with the house and your family." I nodded politely, not wanting to revisit old wounds, but she continued. Your mother sits on that porch some evenings since you cut contact. Just staring into nothing, sometimes crying. I think she always believed you'd return, that she could somehow fix things. Something in my chest tightened momentarily. Part of me wanted to scoff, a smaller part simply felt exhausted by it all. I used to think I needed to fix everything too, I admitted. But I've learned you can't heal in the environment that broke you. Mrs. Patterson nodded wisely. No, you can't. But you certainly can thrive somewhere new. That evening, I sat on my back deck, warm tea in hand, watching twilight settle over my garden. I reflected on my mother, Madison, and the version of myself who once believed love required sacrificing pieces of myself. Then I thought about the woman who purchased this house with savings that once disappeared into others' pockets, carrying emotional scars but also unextinguished hope. She had no idea she wasn't just building shelter, she was constructing a future. People occasionally ask if I've forgiven my family. Truthfully, I'm unsure. Forgiveness isn't always some dramatic declaration. Sometimes it's simply choosing to set down the weight. It's brewing morning coffee without resentment. It's looking forward instead of back. Perhaps that's sufficient. I haven't heard from Madison since her desperate visit. According to Carol, she and Tyler reconciled briefly, exhausted what remained of my parents' resources, then separated again, leaving Madison perpetually seeking the next bailout. Regarding my parents, I have limited information. Aunt Carol mentions they still attend church, still portray themselves as victims of their ungrateful nurse daughter. None of that matters anymore, because I've learned the essential truth: being someone's daughter never meant sacrificing my happiness to earn conditional love. Love with conditions isn't love, it's manipulation. I'm finished being manipulated. Now I invest my energy in genuine connections, colleagues who respect boundaries, friends who offer support without expectations, and most importantly, myself. Last month I expanded my garden, medicinal herbs, vibrant zinnias, and resilient sunflowers. Nothing elaborate. But kneeling in the soil, sunshine warming my shoulders, nurturing growth where emptiness once existed, I recognize this is healing's true nature. Not dramatic or loud, just quiet, steady renewal.